Here's an interesting story. So the the Harvard University president, Claudine Gay, right? Do you know that? Do you remember her?
Yeah.
So she resigned because she got caught being a big plagiarist. Now, of course, the reason why she was forced to resign, well, the reason it was because a bunch of pro-Israel donors made a big stink out of it, and they want to get rid of her because
these are old papers that they just now care about were plagiarized.
They just care about now. So Harvard University president Claudine Gay resigned Tuesday amid plagiarism accusations and criticism over testimony at a congressional hearing where she was unable to say unequivocally that the calls on campus for the genocide of Jews would violate the school's conduct policy. And by the way, Harvard University representatives say genocide against Jews. What they mean is asking for a ceasefire. That's now considered calling for a genocide against Jews.
Yeah, because they'll be killed if they don't stop killing everyone.
Anything that would spare a life from Palestine is obviously malicious intent against Israel.
Thank you.
I'm glad you finally said it, Jim.
By the way, is she allowed to countersue Israel for plagiarizing Germany from the 1930s?
Yeah.
Because
I think that now I see why she couldn't answer the question. Was there she had no paper to copy off of?
Yes.
The question.
Yeah. So she is the second Ivy League president to resign in the past month following the congressional testimony where they couldn't say that unequivocally calls for genocide against Jews.
So easy to answer. Vivek Ramaswamy, he could answer that question.
He could have answered that question.
Would have knocked it out of the park.
So Liz McGill, president of the University of Pennsylvania, she resigned on December 9th. We covered that. Gay, Harvard's first black president, announced her departure just months into her tenure in a letter to the Harvard community. Following the congressional hearing, Gay's academic career came under intense scrutiny by conservative activists who unearthed several instances of alleged plagiarism in her 1997 doctoral dissertation. The Harvard Corporation, Harvard's governing board, initially rallied behind Gay, saying a review of her scholarly work turned up a few instances of inadequate citation, but no evidence of research misconduct.
I remember that because I thought there wasn't really that any. I thought it was maybe no plagiarism, really. It was just some nonsense, but they found more stuff, right?
Yes.
The Washington Free Beacon. This is definitely plagiarism, says Harvard University President Claudine Gay copied entire paragraphs from others. And then she claimed them as her own. And then they gave like 10 examples. I'll show you one. So a guy named George Reed Andrews wrote, a younger generation of Afro-Brazilians, many with 1 or more years of university study, were starting to organize a new black movement in response to the economic and political exclusion which they were experiencing under the dictatorship. She wrote, it was a younger generation of Afro-Brazilians, many with 1 or more years of university education, that were among the first and most eager respondents to the MNU's organizational call. Their eagerness was in large part a measure of the economic and political exclusion they had suffered under the military dictatorship. So and then at the bottom, the new movement of the 1970s and 1980s was to a large degree the expression of frustration among upwardly mobile Afro-Brazilians denied admission to the middle-class status to which their education and qualifications entitled them. She wrote, the movement became an expression of frustration among the upwardly mobile Afro-Brazilians denied admission to the middle-class status to which their education and qualifications entitled. So she's plagiarizing.
But is he a white male?
And so she's obviously
to take it.
Yeah, so she's obviously a DEI hire, as they call it, diversity, equity and inclusion. She's not a great thinker. She hadn't accomplished anything in her career.
But Jimmy, she's a black woman. Her last name is gay. You're not going to find that again.
You're not. No.
I swear when this story first broke, when I first saw President Gay, I thought they were slurring the president of Harvard.
Well, as far as America is concerned, this kind of plagiarism qualifies her to be U.S. president if Joe Biden is any indication.
Yeah. Joe Biden should get another term for it.
Another guy who never accomplished anything in his life, Joe. Everything, he's on the wrong side of every issue, and he gets ascended to become president of the United States, just like she ascended to become president of Harvard.
Presidents are a useless thing.
Yeah, she has very thin background of work. She's written like 12 papers, which a really serious academic will do that in a year, much less over the course of an entire career. I think she wrote either no books or 2 books, but really just very, very weak.
You know what you're telling me? She's going to be hired to direct the next Star Wars.
So 2 things can be true at the same time.
And for her to go from professor to president in 16 years, that would be unheard of, even if you were good.
Right. It's weird they didn't care about this that whole time.
That nobody cared about this. So 2 things can be happening at the same time. She's a super unqualified person who plagiarized, should be fired for it. And the reason why she's actually being fired for it is because the Zionist donors to Harvard wanted to enforce this before they didn't care.
Yes.
So those 2 things are happening at the same time. Here's how CNN covers for her. Listen to this.
These plagiarism allegations, where Claudine Gay has had to issue corrections, multiple corrections. Now, we should note that Claudine Gay has not been accused of stealing anyone's ideas in any of her writings. She's been accused of sort of more like copying other people's writings without attribution. So it's
the textbook definition of what plagiarism is.
Yeah.
Well, how about you steal the CNN broadcast and see if they come down on you for stealing on YouTube?
That was an incredible formulation, because you can't really steal ideas. Like, that's not really a thing.
But you can copy someone's written work.
You can have somebody's video struck for just saying they did that.
Yeah. Yeah.
More sloppy attribution than stealing anyone's ideas, but nonetheless, you put all that together. These plagiarism.
That sounds like a sex move, a sloppy attribution.
Yeah.
How much for a sloppy attribution?
Can I get a sloppy attribution in the big room?
How much?
Listen, I want to hear that again. That's so funny.
Plagiarism allegations, where Claudine Gay has had to issue corrections, multiple corrections. Now, we should note that Claudine Gay has not been accused of stealing anyone's ideas in any of her writings. She's been accused of sort of more like copying other people's writings without attribution. So it's been more sloppy.
Which is, again, he's saying she's more just being accused of doing the textbook definition of plagiarism. It said, and then of course, imagine if Trump had done this. Now, again, I cannot help but do that. Imagine if Trump had been caught plagiarizing 10 things in a paper he wrote.
Imagine if the president of Trump University did that. She's going to get $1 million a year from resigning. She's fine.
Of course, she's fine.
She's still a professor.
Yeah.
Oh, and she's going to go on she'll probably write a book about it, and she'll be invited on to go give speaking engagements where she charges $50,000 a thing, like Cornel West did when he wrote his books. Here's Cornel West's reaction to it. He says, "How sad but predictable that the same figures and forces enabling the ethnic cleansing and genocidal attacks on Palestinians in Gaza, Ackman, Bloom, Summers, and others, push out the first black woman president of Harvard. This racism against both Palestinians and black people, this is not racism against her."
By the way,
he said it's
Harvard,
undeniable and despicable. This is not racism. They're not doing this because she's black. They just did it to a white woman at Penn, and they're trying to do it to another white person at MIT. This is not about racism. Boy, he can't. He's got one flex. This is his only flex. It is.
She was hired because of racism.
She got hired because of her skin color. She's not being fired because of it.
Al Sharpton came out. Ibram X. Kendi with his
that guy.
What did he blow through? $42 million to no purpose.
Do you know who Ibram X.
He
Kendi
came out and made a statement.
Was, let me guess, it was wrong.
Yes, of course. This is all white supremacy.
Do you know who that
racism.
Is?
No.
Oh, he's the one that a bunch of this
Ibram
crap
X.
is
Kendi?
made. Remember when you said you thought CRT was a made-up thing?
I did. I thought CRT was made up.
Well, he was a big proponent. He has a whole...
He's, I try to separate them because Kendi calls, what he's advocating anti-racism. So the underlying idea is racism is so pervasive. It's not enough to be against racism. You have to be actively involved in being anti-racism. But of course, anti-racism is as he defines what racism is.
He says we need discrimination.
Acolytes.
We literally need a lot of discrimination.
He literally said
words.
the cure to past discrimination is present discrimination. He literally said that.
Not just ending discrimination.
So this is why, again, this is why when there is actual racism in the world and in this country,
Sure.
but when you call everything racism, then nothing's racism. And
Right.
then nobody pays attention to you because now you sound like Al Sharpton. You sound like you sound like some kind of
Ibram X. Kendi.
you sound like a phony. You sound like a race baiter. You sound like a hustler. You sound like all those bad words. That's what he's doing there.
Well,
that's what he's pretending to.
You're giving ammunition to people who want to deny that there is any racism because they point to your examples.
That's
of it,
right.
and it's so easy to knock down. Like, to be balanced about this, if you want to make an honest argument and you want to say, well, you have all of these brainless wonders from the right families that have just been escorted through the halls of these institutions forever. George W. Bush is a perfect example of it. And it wasn't a problem when that guy got to be president. He clearly was not
talk about
qualified.
your affirmative action for white guys.
Sure.
Right?
That is a legitimate argument.
Yes.
But to take the position, this is because she's black.
That is not. She got the job because she's black. She's not getting fired because she's black. She's got fired because she went against her Zionist donor class, and it doesn't matter what her skin color is.
Right.
But according, Cornel West says he is on a campaign to discredit himself completely, and he's doing it.
Yeah,
he's doing it.
You think he's running for office for real?
Okay.
God, can you imagine how screwed he would be if he somehow was a contender? How utterly destroyed.
He won't allow himself to be a contender.
The shellacking he took on here would be a cakewalk compared to if he was going somewhere in the race.
Yeah, I know. You're talking about the smears that would come his way if he was actually running a campaign that was a threat to the establishment.
Right.
But he's not. Yeah. So he's not. So no one even gives a shit about him.
He's so not a threat. He can talk about Palestinians if he wants.
That's how. That's how.
That's how much you stay right where you are.
He got a little taste of what it would be to challenge the establishment
and
with the hit pieces about the child support and the taxes. And he shut up. And guess what? Those stories went away.
Those stories went away. He got his mind right. He certainly got his mind right. Came on here, called me a Trumper.
Well, he just said he thinks you like him more than you let on. Like you were hiding your secret.
Yeah, I'm hiding. I have a secret. Yeah. As he's working with Peter Dow, a guy trained by the IDF.
Well, it's enraging. Like, I'm not some punk academic. Like, if I did feel that way, I'd say it right in your dumb face.
That's right.
I wouldn't hide it.
That's
like
right.
a pussy-ass academic.
That's
They're
right.
the worst people on the planet.
That's right.
Jimmy may admire Trump's comedy chops as a fellow stand-up.
That's right.
Not his politics.
Not his politics, no. And you're right. And if I had something like that to say, I would say it right to his punk-ass face. And instead of like him, where he didn't have the courage to admit that what he was seeing, that they were using the same RICO statute to go after Stop Cop City, they're going after Trump, and that they're politicizing and they're criminalizing the establishment's political opposition, and that Joe Biden is every bit of fascist that they claim that Donald Trump
Black
is.
Uhuru in Miami?
Yeah, how about that? He won't even stand up for them.
You never even heard of him? He should be the one bringing him up, not me.
And that's exactly right. And he wouldn't stand up for the working class because he's not of the working class. And the working class during COVID. He had nothing to say about them. Come see us do a live stand-up show. We'll be in Venice, California, Palmdale, California, Omaha, Des Moines, Milwaukee, Lansing, Bend, Oregon, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, Boston, Massachusetts, and we're going to Europe. Do you live in Europe? We're going to be there. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets.